Good morning, Parkrose United Methodist Church family. Pastor Andrew here. Just want to tell you that I love you and welcome into this week's Sunday service online. Today, we got a good word from Jess Bielman. So we're going to worship in the word with Jess Bielman. He has preached with us before. He's got a really good message on love. So we look forward to hearing what he has to say here in a little bit. The Parkrose UMC Choir once again has gotten together, the few that can, and they put together some really beautiful music. We also will hear a solo trumpet from Dave, as well as the prelude and postlude from Molly and Lesley. So we've got a really good service coming your way today. As far as announcements, not really too many announcements for right now. One of the main announcements that I do want to say is that we had a successful food pantry cycle the past 2 weeks. We're able to feed multiple families, and so that is going strong. If you want to coordinate with Sue to see how you can help or contribute to the food pantry, please do get with Sue Gay on that. Also, we were able to distribute keys. We had the locks changed, just the locks of the front door in Miller Hall, as well as the main sanctuary. We had those changed out. And so this week we've been able to pass out or exchange keys with the individuals who were able to coordinate with me. If you are a person and maybe I've missed you somehow and you typically have a key because of a service that you do or around the church, please let me know, coordinate with me so that we can get together and I can get you a new copy of the new front door key. Well, that's really all of my announcements. I want to say thank you once again and always to everyone who helps contribute and gives to Parkrose UMC. We absolutely are in a phase where we always need some help. It's that time of the year where it gets pretty cold outside and heating and warming up the building can be kind of costly. So if you want to contribute online, there's always a link attached, a PayPal link to be able to give online, as well as you can always continue to give the ways that you have given by sending in a check or sending in your contributions, however you do, through the mail. So once again, I'm going to end where I began and just tell you that I love you. Thank you so much for joining us for our online Sunday service, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Love you.
When did we forget how to love? Did it happen suddenly? Or was it a gradual decline? When did we forget the very foundation of the gospel? For God so loved. Love is what moved God to action. Love is what held Jesus to the cross. Love is what rolled away the stone. But we've forgotten that part. Without love, we are simply a resounding gong, a clanging cymbal, a bunch of noise. Without love, we are nothing. Is that what people see in us? Meaningless, empty noise? Love is supposed to be patient and kind, gentle, not angry or arrogant. Yet in our effort to stand on truth, we have forgotten the very thing these truths are based on. Love. Never once did Jesus fail in this. Not in his heartbreak or his anger. Not in his joy or his betrayal. His default has always been love. Maybe it's time the church was more like Jesus.
Greetings, my Methodist kindred. My name is Jess Bielman. I'm an associate director with the Innovation and Vitality team of the Greater Northwest United Methodist Church. We are the group that is invested in your church, identified your pastors as innovators, and are invested in the success and future growth of innovation. I, like you, have been experiencing this unprecedented season of life at home. The way I'm experiencing it is at home. Things have changed for me. I am getting really good at 5th grade math. I am desperately looking for new things to cook for my family. I have invested in sweatpants quite a bit. I've been watching the Marvel movies, and now I'm watching them again. I kind of hope I don't get to 3 times watching all 20-some movies before we can open back up a little bit. And most of all, I'm trying to be attentive to my wife and 2 daughters who would normally be in school every day, but we are all here working on top of each other and around each other and by each other to get all the things we need to do done. So if one of my littles comes in the room to ask me a question, you'll just get to say hi. Thank you for having me this morning. And our passage this morning is 1 Corinthians 13. One of the first I got to know when I converted and I became a Christian. And it is one that has stayed with me and seems to challenge me in whatever context of life I find myself in. And it is certainly one that seems so relevant, so applicable, and so challenging in this COVID moment and in a post-Trump world that we live in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to share kind of the text with you as we go today. And as we do, I just want to draw our attention to some of the incredible things that Paul says about love. So I wanted to just begin with the Beatles. All you need is love. Well, kind of. I think there's some certain responsibilities that come with love that maybe don't fit into a Beatles song, but Paul certainly outlines. So the passage begins in verse 1. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but I have not loved, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I have not love, I am nothing. Even if I give away all that I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but I have not love, I have gained nothing. Paul suggests that love is the great check on our actions and motivations. We can accomplish whatever church or worldly success, but if it is at the expense of love, it is not worth it. Think of the last time you were frustrated, or think of the last conflict or challenge that you've had in community, whether it's your home community, your church community. Love suggests that even we can be right when we're wrong, or we can be wrong when we're right. There's plenty of community challenges in which the thing that I am in a challenge, I'm in conflict about, I 100% know that I am right. But if I go about that the wrong way, I'm going to be wrong. How do we put love in the center of our struggles, of our communities, of our conflict? There are plenty of challenges where the right answer or perspective can be engaged with our fellow people in a way that's unloving, and our rightness doesn't matter. I've also learned a lot about love in cross-cultural spaces. I have been taught through some pretty painful experiences that I need to be held accountable for not just my intention, but my impact. I've learned a lot. I often want to be judged based upon my intention. And if I don't realize that I have offended, or I said something that was racist, or I didn't know what I was doing was a microaggression, I really hope that those who are offended by me look at my intention. But I've been taught that what I need to be held accountable for is my impact. I actually need to be held accountable for my impact regardless of my intention. Even if I did not mean to offend, I can be wrong without intending to be wrong. If I'm a person in a relationship with, the person I'm in a relationship with is not experiencing me as loving, then I'm not loving, period. My 13-year-old daughter reminds me of this. Sometimes she experiences me as not loving, even when I don't intend to be not loving. And I've learned in relationships across culture that sometimes, because I exist in a world that was built for white men, I think my experience is normative, and I can overlook or offend those to whom don't look like me, talk like me, act like me, see the world like I do. But I've learned that I can't just have good intentions. I need them to experience me in a way that's loving. I need to be held accountable for my impact. And how should they be experiencing me? Well, Paul, how should others be experiencing us? Paul is really clear. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. What a list. What a clear picture of love. I interpret Paul's lists like this as more emblematic of an idea rather than like a closed list of attributes. This is not all the things that love looks like. We see Paul making lists when he talks about qualifications of a leader or roles in the church, etc. And I think that when he does that, he's not making a static, closed list of what these things are like. He changes his lists and addresses the same things in different passages. So what I think he's doing is he's more painting a picture for us. And let's look at some of these. And I want you to hear them through whatever context you need to hear them. For me, I probably need to hear them through the context of having my kids at home with me every day. I probably need to hear them through the context of 10 months in this house with my wife who gets to experience me every day, my goods and bads. Certainly, we could talk about experiencing this with church as a variable that we all have in common. But let's really look at these attributes and think about them in the context of the relationships we have around us. Love is patient. Love isn't rude. Love doesn't insist on its own way. Maybe we should stop there. I think that this insisting on our own way is particularly applicable at church. When our faith comes in, we can easily insist that our way is the only way. Our way is the right way. Our way is the only right way. And often we baptize our only right way as God's way. And it takes a deep listening to Scripture, to the Holy Spirit, and those for whom our way is not their way, for us to grow so that we could love in a way that doesn't insist on our own way. Paul goes on. Love is not irritable or resentful. Resentful. Oof, maybe we should stop there too. Resent can come so quickly. Undealt with frustration over time becomes resentment and just kills our ability to love. And we can often go years, decades with resentment built up over undealt with hurts. And it absolutely impedes our ability to love. Paul goes on and says that love rejoices in truth. Boy, that has never felt more applicable in this post-Trump world, when fact and truth has become so squishy. Love rejoices in truth. I don't know, maybe you are familiar with Dr. Cornel West's work, but one of the first things I encountered in Dr. West was that his statement that justice is what love looks like in public. And boy, I thought that was a high calling for us and our faith. And then I heard kind of the rest of that, of his approach to love. And he says also that tenderness is what love feels like in private. Tenderness is what love feels like in private. So I'd ask us again, if we are not being perceived by those around us that we are in a relationship with as tender, we might have some work to do. I think I might have some work to do. I wonder if those in church community with me, I wonder if those who are closest to me at home, I wonder if those who work closest with me in my job, would they describe their encounters with me as tender? Paul goes on. Love never ends. What a great beginning. And look what other things will end. Lots of things end in our life. Love, Paul says, never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. Love is the great return for our church action and effort. Love is the great return on investment. This is an interesting part of the passage. If we look at the way the early church worshiped in the time that Paul is writing, these were prophecies, tongues, knowledge. These were all important aspects of their life of worship. And he's saying that these important aspects of our life of worship will pass away, but love won't. Makes me wonder, what are the important parts of our worship that will pass away? Our sermons might pass away, our music will pass away, our programs will pass away, but love never ends. I feel like I've experienced this up close before. I have mourned the end of 2 church communities in my life, and each of them had meant so much to me. And after all was said and done, what I remember most is that the love we shared, and also the experiences where we couldn't get to love. All of our great plans and sermons and ideas and programs, they passed away. But there are still those memories, still those people in my life which we have found love. And that love stays with us. Paul continues, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, and I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. There is an expectation that we grow in our ability to love. Look at this verse 11. He's saying, when I was a child, I did everything like children, but eventually I had to grow up and I had to see things clearer. Paul indicates that we have to grow in love. There's this great passage in Luke 6, and we'll look at it in a minute, where Jesus indicates that if we just love those who love us, if we just love those who look like us, talk like us, act like us, love like us, this isn't credit to us as righteousness. It's not growth. Growth comes from engaging difference, dissonance, being uncomfortable. Look at this. This is Luke 6. We're going to deviate off of 1 Corinthians for a minute. If you love those who love you, what credit is to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is for you? Even sinners do that. If you lend only to those to whom you expect repayment, what credit is it for you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies and do good to them. Lend without getting expectation of anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you'll be children of your Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. If church is those people and activities that keep me comfortable, I think we're still reasoning like a child. We're still on spiritual milk. It's not credit to us as righteousness. If our engagement in our community is just the folks who think like us, and we do good with those who we're comfortable with, I think we're reasoning like a child, still on spiritual milk. And it's not credit to us as righteousness. So the Spirit works in our lives to grow us as disciples, those who are disciplined by the Spirit of Christ. So Paul returns. So faith, hope, and love abide. These 3, but the greatest of these is love. We know that love is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. And it's a great force that we need to work at sustaining. And we know that the work of love, when it comes in the context of change and growth, it's hard. But we live in a changing world, a rapidly changing world. Maybe we are experiencing times that we never thought we would experience in our life. We are experiencing a changing of the way that our communities and our culture engages church. We're seeing the decline in white mainline religion in the US, which has been our spiritual center. COVID, man, we are doing things we've never done before, and we're not doing things that we always did. And I don't believe that we have to have all the answers. We don't have to have all the answers to what's the future of the global church, what's the future of the UMC, what is the future of our local church. But there is an experience, there is an expectation that we will love sacrificially, uncomfortably, and clearly. This is truly an unprecedented time in all of our lives of faith. And we were taught, and we know that church was never a time of the week or a building we go to, but the life of faith amongst the group of believers. And COVID it's made us prove it. And I wonder sometimes just how much we've gotten dependent on that time of the week and that building we go to. Because right now, we don't get that. We don't get that time of the week in that building. So I ask you, is bringing COVID bringing about any place that is making love challenging for you? Are the people around you experiencing you as tender? Perhaps maybe are you holding on to anything that is keeping you from having that love that doesn't have to insist upon its own way? I know that in this season, boy, I really want things to be my way and comfortable. And it takes a lot of love for another person, for another group of people, for the body of Christ that I'm in, for me to not have to insist on my own way. Finally, I'll leave you with this. Thank you for having me. Separation is hard. Not being able to be together for 10 months is difficult. And I would encourage you to hold in your heart, most in your heart, the experiences of love that you have for one another. And it's going to take a deep sense of love to continue to be separated in the ways we are, and to continue to build the church in the way we have to, because we can't be together in our church spaces. And so hold on to love for one another. Hold on to this uncomfortable. Hold on to this, I don't need my own way. Hold on to this tenderness as you engage one another, as you engage those around you that you live with most in this season. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being a part of your worship this morning.